Today, we begin to become acquainted with another of the pairs of the 8 earthly winds, gain and loss, although all of us are already so intimate with all of these 8 earthly winds. Our world turns with and around all of these 8 winds. Think about it. Try to imagine a world without the realities of happiness or pleasure, and a world with no suffering or pain, no experiences with gain and loss, praise and blame. Good and bad reputation is completely irrelevant. We would be hard-pressed to imagine such a world. The nature of our world is such that we inevitably experience these winds, and we also experience the alternating nature of these winds. Sometimes we gain or profit or succeed, and other times we experience loss or failure. Can we recognize the essential nature of these winds, both the ones we want and the ones we don't? Can we notice the wanting and the not wanting, the clinging and the holding on, and the pushing and the turning away? I once worked with a client who was a wealthy man. He said to me, "If only I had a certain amount of cash, liquid in the bank, I would be happy." I am fairly certain this man had much more cash in his accounts than I ever had. And he also owned real estate and successful businesses. So I asked him, "Do you actually have a specific sum of cash that you think you need to be liquid in your account for you to be happy?" And he said yes. So I asked him how much. He responded with some odd and unexpected sum, something like $72 million. He was really sincere. He needed a specific number in his bank account for happiness to be present. Anything less would be insufficient for him. What he'd unintentionally set up for himself was a reality that forced him into unhappiness. After all, as he'd maintained, he would be happy when and if he had a huge sum of cash in his account, something which was not currently in his reality and may never be. But even if it will be, it isn't here now. And now is where he is. Now is where we are, of course, always at, all the time. But I've gone back to his response often since then. Because are we actually that much different than him? Perhaps for many of us, the numbers aren't quite as large. Or perhaps it isn't about an actual sum of cash sitting in a bank account. Maybe it's about one of the specific financial or investment markets and the habits we can have of checking, perhaps even on a daily basis, whether we are up or down. Notice how we say we are up or down, or I am up or down, as if the trending markets are a part of and an extension of us. I know for myself the experiences of gain and loss that I can feel very viscerally in my stomach when I go onto my banking app and see what is or isn't currently in my bank accounts. Perhaps it's more about the success of a business we're running, or a promotion or a raise that we are aiming for. Perhaps it is the success of a project we're working on. Perhaps it's an endeavor or a project that isn't tied to financial success at all. And yet, feelings and thoughts of gain and loss are as real and as important to us as anything that may be financial. The attainments of success can be varied. It can encompass anything we do professionally, but it also includes our personal lives. Most parents would do anything for their children's happiness and well-being. I have 5 sons. What do they need to do? How do they need to behave? What kind of grades do they need to get in school? What sort of accomplishments, honors, or accolades do they need to accrue that will make me feel like a successful parent? Of course, like all good parents, I just want what's best for my children. But how much of that is also wrapped up in my own I, me, and mine, my own well-intended yet still is my selfing? And alternatively, what happens in me? What sort of thoughts do I have when I experience loss or failure? What about when I'm struggling? And when whatever I am aiming for isn't coming to me with success? Or if one of my children is experiencing struggle? I think by now, due to our practice and our recent and very thorough investigations into the winds of praise and blame, we are all aware of the inherent impermanence that characterize the experiences of all these winds. They come and they go. Some for a short time, some for longer, but all are impermanent. And one can ask themselves, if I see this and know this, then why does it affect me so? I know I have had thoughts like this. I am a person who can have awareness that is clear and wise. Seeing into the intrinsic, impermanent nature of these earthly experiences is deeply wise. So why does it often affect and impact me so? What I need to appreciate is this. There are levels and layers to recognizing and holding truth and awareness. On a comprehension level and on a skillful, embodied holding level. So the fact is, I may know something and yet still watch my own unskillful reactivity unfold. This, in fact, often happens with me. I have enough clarity to see my pain or suffering morph into reactive irritability, frustration, or anger, and yet it is happening anyway. Like some part of me is watching the rest of me, shaking my head and saying, there you go again, David. This is another layer of awareness that must be held in non-judging, caring, and understanding awareness. Buddha's instructions and guidance was very clear. When we experience gain, growth, success, achievement, etc., we say to ourselves, this is impermanent, bound up with suffering, and subject to change. And when we experience loss or failure, when we don't achieve something we've been aiming for, we notice this and say to ourselves, this is impermanent, bound up with suffering, and subject to change. And of course, these are his same instructions for all of the earthly winds. These are the instructions for awareness itself. And then there is the very quality of awareness. This is the intention that drives the awareness. This quality must be warm-hearted, caring, with a sense of holding, like I would hold a loved one in the midst of their pain or struggle, or like a dear loved one would actually hold me in the midst of my pain and struggle. A sense of humor and a sense of playfulness also goes a long way in helping me develop a lighter touch and a less intense, but no less honest inner gaze. Can I see how absurd I can be at times? How completely wrapped up I can be in one moment or another, completely forgetting the bigger picture and the greater perspective? Can I feel into the ease that opens to me, the deeper breath that literally becomes more available to me when I can ground with this sort of skillful perspective and awareness? How my mind and head, both physically and mentally, can loosen a bit or a lot from the tightness and tension it was holding amidst the reactivity of aversion and aversiveness. What sort of image or what sort of inner prompt can help me regain some of this awareness and restore even a bit of a sense of playfulness to the moment? When I can, I will deliberately, in my mind, exaggerate the situation or the circumstance, or my sense of catastrophe or disaster, bringing an intentionally distorted sense of the moment's utter and complete horribleness often enables me to put an inner or even a little bit of an outer smile to my face. This is my own way of reminding myself to lighten up, to breathe, to calm and settle, to regroup and reground. This is only meant to serve as an example of one way one can access their sense of the absurd and of play. It is very worthwhile for all of us to play with this, to see what works for us and in what circumstance. Gain and loss are real winds, and they can hit us quite hard. Like all the winds that blow, they pass. And in the meantime, we must ride the storm as best we can in any given moment. On the cushion, in our meditation practice, the winds of gain and loss can and will also make themselves known. I've heard Guy Armstrong, a Buddhist meditation teacher and author, talk about this. One day, or for a period of time, my own sitting practice is rewarding and enriching. I feel just great about it. My concentration is strengthening, or my calmness, my samadhi is deepening. And then, sometimes inexplicably, for no apparent reason at all, it's gone. I am now unsettled, and I am experiencing distractibility, irritability, impatience, and frustration. I am experiencing the winds of gain and loss within my meditation practice. Guy Armstrong says, we can set up optimal conditions for concentration and calm, but gain and loss is inevitable. What a relief it is to know this, and to know this more deeply, more viscerally. What a huge pressure is taken off of my practice. I can hold on to noble and worthwhile aspirations for my meditation practice without the suffering that comes from striving. Thank you for your kind attention.